welcome to another edition of Office Hours, a weekly live show brought to you by the team at Bunker Labs. We're committed to helping grow our ecosystem of veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses. I'm your host today, the one and only Iron Mike Steadman, joined by my co-host Amy Morrison and our guest today, Shaylon Scott from Founders First CDC. Did I get that right, Shaylon?
You are correct. I need a tag name like you, though.
Yeah,
Iron Mike, that's a good one.
awesome. Shayla's going to be talking to us about an amazing opportunity for the veteran entrepreneurial community. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Amy to share any updates that are taking place in the bunker.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, excuse my voice. I've been coughing all weekend. So a couple things going on. So we're going to be in Washington, D.C. on October 19th for the USAA pitch competition. So you can join us there. Where is my link? Hold on. Okay, here's the link, and I will post in the comments the link to the Eventbrite. So if you're in the D.C. area or want to travel a little bit, you can join us there. It starts at 9 a.m., so it is an early start for that one. And then other stuff we got is a blog spotlight on the Osorio brothers. Mentioned this last week, but just in case you didn't check it out, we got Juan Pablo and his brother Julio Osorio. Were Marines who started various successful businesses in marketing and accounting. So check that out. And then we will talk about it extensively on the show. But applications are open for the Stephen L. Tadlock Veteran Grant, and that is $25,000 fund. Or $1,000 each to 25 veterans. There we go. Anyway, like I said, we'll talk about it. So if I get that a little wrong, I'm sure Shaylon will correct me. And that is what we got going on in the bunker this week.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Amy.
Yep.
Shout out to everybody that's tuning in live. Just go ahead and drop in the chat where you're dialing in from. We always appreciate that. Shout out to my man Edgar out in Las Vegas. Doing great stuff out there with business coaching and networking. Man, always a pleasure to have you checking out our content here. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and have our guest introduce herself and her work with Founders First CDC.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I am Shaylon Scott, Executive Director of Founders First CDC, and we are a national nonprofit that has a growth accelerator that works with diverse-led small businesses, helping them to grow and scale. So we work with businesses anywhere between the revenue range of 50K up to 3 million in revenue. And each one of those cohorts that that each of the businesses go through is based on a specific size that they're in. And we want to see businesses led by Black and brown founders, those in BIPOC community, those LGBTQ veteran-owned businesses. We want to see all of these businesses be able to thrive and to grow and to create an inclusive economy. So hence the reason for our business model, where we not only provide access to education, but access to connections and community, but also access to capital and letting them know exactly what it means to be fund ready and the type of funding they possibly may be able to achieve.
It's funny you say fund ready because my company, Ironbound Media, we just launched a podcast for a local CDFI, the Greater Newark Enterprise Corporation, to help more underrepresented founders be fund ready, because a lot of them struggle getting all the necessary paperwork and everything to receive a low interest loan from a CDFI.
Absolutely. Even understanding what it means to be fund ready.
Yep.
Everybody, there's a lot that want the capital. And I understand you need capital to grow your business, but the right type of capital for you may vary. And you may not quite be ready to move to that next level yet. And that's okay. But someone needs to be able to guide you, or at least to let you know the next steps to move forward.
What I like about what you said too is how you all focus on a range between 50 and 3 million, 50K and 3 million. And to me, that really focuses on more of your traditional small businesses. Not to say you can't launch a SaaS app, and build it up to, $1 million, $3 million in recurring revenue. But for the most part, when I hear that and I kind of see the work that y'all are doing, I think it really speaks to more of those like Main Street businesses, that are trying to, hooking and jabbing, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. These are service-based businesses who may have started as an individual contributor, and maybe they were an accountant for an organization, and now they have their own accounting firm. That's a different lane that they're in. Now they are running a team, and they have to learn those steps and skills to do so. So each of our accelerators that we offer is ranges on the size of their business. So there's one that's our challenge, is for 50K to 250K. There's one that's our boot camp for 250K to $1 million. And then our fast path, which is $1 million plus. Because we know once you move from one step to the other, there are different issues that may come up. There are different experiences that you have. And so we want to be able to meet the businesses where they are.
So I'm going to ask you a question. As somebody
Yeah.
that's in the trenches working with these entrepreneurs, I feel like these days people are selling entrepreneurship like it's the best thing since sliced bread. But as a founder yourself with Book Mecca, it's a
Yeah,
grind,
it
right?
definitely is.
Entrepreneurship is it's hard work, and I think one of the challenges is seasons of life people are coming in. So a lot of our veterans that are tuning into this platform that have aspirations of starting businesses, many of them have spouses and kids,
Mhm,
and it's a lot of work to get a business off the ground, pay yourself a market rate salary,
mhm.
and just manage the day-to-day blocking and tackling that comes with it. And
Okay,
so I
that's
just feel like
important.
at times there's a disconnect between the reality of what it takes to build a venture. We love to use this word scale and grow it, and
Hmm.
what it actually is.
Oh, yeah, you were so right there. I was at a conference not too long ago, and one of the speakers had uh, told all the entrepreneurs in the audience to really think about why they started their business. If they started their business to have plenty of time to go off and go to the beach and have a wonderful vacation whenever they wanted, that's probably not a good reason to start a business, because it is a grind. It is an everyday grind. You not only have to look out for what it means to grow your business and what's right for your business growth. Not every business wants to grow to be the size of Amazon, and that's okay, but you at least need to have a plan on what that looks like and have the support system to move you to that next step. And then you have some people that start a business and it's just a hobby, and that's okay too. You don't have to
Yeah.
have the next big thing. Some just really enjoy to do it for a little extra change, but that's a different lane. So different requirements, different expectations for different things that you're looking for in the future.
What are some of the challenges you're seeing at the grassroots level with these, Main Street businesses at 50K to 250K?
A lot of the challenges that they vocalize is access to capital. Um, but oftentimes it's not necessarily access to capital, it's access to acquiring the capital that works for their business, and understanding what that means. And so a lot of it is, even though there are a lot of education workshops and opportunities that exist, it's really taken into account as uh, seeing how it fits with your business, and what works best for you. Because to be honest, there are some businesses that may receive the capital, even with some of the grants that we have. If they don't have a plan on how to use it appropriately, it does them no good, and they're right back to where they need to be. So it's always important that they not only have the education behind the capital.
One thing I've noticed is I've been an entrepreneur since 2015 or so. Maybe I always had that entrepreneurial mindset. But even back then, people were talking about access to capital, access to
Yeah.
capital. And then you read history books, access to capital, access to capital. So I don't think there's any business out there that doesn't can benefit from, 25K,
Hmm.
100K,
Hmm.
etc. But one thing I am aware of, certain business models and markets are notoriously harder than others. So
Yes.
restaurants, notoriously
Yes.
hard. Food trucks, what else? Retail, which is
Hmm.
really going through some significant challenges these days. Service-based businesses, right?
Hmm.
You sell a product or you sell a service, right?
Hmm.
Get good cash flow. But again, you're
Hmm.
dealing with payroll and all these different challenges. So given the fact that access to capital is a challenge for everyone, how have you encouraged your small business owners to still persevere with or without it?
Well, one thing we encourage in all of our cohorts and um, working with all the entrepreneurs is that they need to look at having recurring revenue as being added to their business model. If a business has a subscription style or recurring revenue, whether they have contracts going forward, and even being more tech enabled, you can move a business that is storefront, brick and mortar, let's say, for example, a restaurant, and now they've moved into selling their cookies on a consistent basis to the convention bureau. That is a recurring revenue with a contract that they can guarantee that funding is going to be coming in to sustain their business. So adding those on top of the regular revenue that they may receive from that fluctuates from their consumers, that can help their business to thrive and to grow.
what I'm hearing is you need recurring revenue to help with cash flow issues, right?
Everything.
Rain, sleet, hell, or snow, you've got a certain amount of revenue coming in. And that way, when stuff fluctuates, right, whether it's your traditional like retail sales or whatever, you still have your bases covered.
Yeah, and it's a good way to help with planning and forecasting their business growth. If you know exactly how much you have coming in on a regular basis, if you have so many contracts and so many clients, even lenders or those who are looking to provide funding to you, they can take a look and see how profitable you may be or areas that you may need to increase different types of revenue coming in.
When I think about the old way businesses were started, right? You write the traditional business plan. This is pre, lean startup methodology. You sell one product or one service and you take it all the way to like $1 million in recurring revenue. Does that still exist today for the Main Street business owner?
This is probably my own personal opinion, but I'd say no. I, Especially, I think anything post COVID, you have to change the way that you do business. You can't simply operate the same way that we did pre COVID. There's not going to be a 1-to-1. You have to think of 1-to-5. If you were selling to one individual, what does that mean? That one person shouldn't just send out information by word of mouth, but it should be other ways that you get the information out there outside of whether it's your marketing strategies, it's um, revenue that's coming in from recurring subscription models, all of those things. So you can't really think of, as long as I have my 10 customers, I'm going to be okay. No, you need 10 times 10.
Need 10 times 10. And the reason I ask this is because people on the outside looking in, you get a lot of MBAs at times that want to come in and, provide advice. But, a lot of founders I'm coming across, they're diversifying revenue streams, right?
Yes.
They might have to go teach that class at a local university or spin up that consultant opportunity just to put food on the table for them and their family, while they're trying to grow and like scale their business, because it is a hell of a thing when you put yourself on payroll out of your business.
Yeah.
You got to make sure, overhead expenses are covered. You got to make sure your team is covered and you're the one at the back of the line, usually the last one to get paid. And so I'm seeing a lot more, like you say, founders understand that they have to diversify revenue streams. And people told us this all along, but it's the disconnect when you read old traditional business literature versus, I feel like, how a lot of small businesses are operating today.
And it's funny you mentioned that. It's something that we really do a lot through our cohorts is making sure that the mentors and the coaches that work with the businesses have either operated businesses at that size and scale, or they are currently operating businesses at that size and scale. Academic information is not enough. You have to have that experiential knowledge to really put what works on paper to action. So when we're working with our businesses, we want to make sure that they have access to not just peers, but those who've been in those trenches with them.
We have a question from the chat. Henry wants to know, what are you interested in?
As far as
business wise, are there any certain industries or
now I am biased because I love books. So I will always say the book industry needs to be turned upside down, especially for individuals from all different backgrounds. It has been one-sided for years, and we would love to see it grow more. So I'm always going to say the book industry, but there are plenty of other industries that are growing quickly, and a lot more that are becoming more tech-enabled so they can survive. So I'm really, that's exciting to see.
Are you seeing any trends in terms of the groups that are taking advantage of Founder First, or that you're seeing an uptake in business growth? So, we see a lot of talks about women, particularly Black women are starting more businesses. And then you also have obviously veterans as well.
Yeah, we do see a high number, especially for our programs, a high number of Black women that apply. Overall, a high number of women apply, period, across the board. But veteran-owned businesses, they are right up there, right behind Black women, white women, and then our veteran-owned businesses, because we have a lot of support organizations. And that's one thing we try and do is work with partner organizations like yourselves to let people know about the opportunities that exist. So that way they're not trying to figure out what opportunities are out there. It's just kind of spread out so everybody can take advantage of it.
Now, I'm from Texas, right? And Texas provides a lot of support to
Mhm.
military veterans. I mean, we had
Yes.
the Hazelwood Act, so you could basically go to school for free if you go to a Texas university. But I didn't get to necessarily experience like a lot of those support when I lived in Texas because I hadn't yet served. So I
Mm,
can only imagine the type of support you all are able to provide to veteran entrepreneurs. And particularly, one of the things we want to talk about today is a grant opportunity.
absolutely. It's funny you mentioned in Texas. I was just at a veteran business entrepreneurship conference this past week, and it was awesome. There were so many organizations from across the country that were sharing opportunities, sharing cohorts, sharing grant opportunities, ways they can get certifications, and all of those things they can take advantage of as a veteran. And it was just an honor to be there, even talking about Stephen L. Tadlock as well. And Stephen L. Tadlock is a grant that is designed, it's national. Anyone across the country can apply for it. And it is a $25,000 fund, $1,000 for 25 businesses across the country. And this is for veteran owned businesses. They must be based in the US and serve business there. They have to have 2 to 200 employees. And they also must be revenue generating up to 5 million. So if you're 10 million plus, you may not need us the $1,000. So try to leave that open for some of our smaller businesses. But this is open and available, and it's in honor of our founder and CEO Kim Folson's brother, who passed away. He was a Navy veteran and a big proponent and advocate for small businesses. And so this is done in his honor, and this is our third year doing it. And we are hoping to grow it each and every year so it can get stronger and we can serve more businesses.
So $25,000 to 25 different veteran-owned businesses.
$1,000 to 25 businesses. It's
Got
a
you. $1,000.
yes.
Okay, so some good little seed capital, because guess what? Those are recurring subscriptions on
Uh-huh.
Pipe Drive, your CRM, that Squarespace stuff, right? That goes a long way.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's coming out of your pocket. So
Yes, it sure does. It sure does.
we just talked about being fund ready. What can people do to make sure they set themselves up for a strong application?
Um, I'll say the hardest part of this application that some find hard is doing a video. And the video is a small 90-second video about your business, about yourself. How would you use the capital? And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. We don't need a big production crew. It can be done from your iPhone really simply and easily. Telling us about your business and your story. We want to know. And that goes a long way because we can read about your business, just the basics of the application, that's fine. But truly hearing from you how it's going and what your goals and your plans are really helps to set you apart.
I love it. We're going to be sure to include a link to the application in the chat. Before we transition to book recommendations, for
Thank
our viewers that are tuning in, if you have a question for myself or a guest, feel free to go ahead and drop it in the chat. I'm sure Shaylon would love to answer some questions for y'all, whether regarding the grant or her experience, serving the small business community down in Texas. So while we wait for those questions to pop up, Shaylon, what book rec do you have for us today?
This is one I'm reading right now. It's by Richard Rohr. It's called
Okay.
Falling Upward.
Falling Upward.
And this one, I don't know if you may be in the second half of your life like I am, and you kind of take a look at ways that you want to move to the next level. So when I was 20, I thought I wanted to be this. When I was 30, I thought I wanted to be this. Now I'm at a different age. What does that look like? Whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, career wise, and what things may need to be adjusted for you to make those moves.
I
So
love
it's
it.
really good. It's really good.
I was just talking to one of my coaching clients the other day, and I asked him when he started his business, when he started becoming an entrepreneur, did he imagine the mental and spiritual journey that this would take him on? Because
Mm.
there's a reason a lot of entrepreneurial people read a lot of personal development books, because you really do have to work on yourself, your
Oh yeah.
thinking, how you see the world, and example, just like you said, of falling upward. And I haven't read the book yet, but even just kind of hearing you talk about it, I think of the subject matter about being in this next phase of our lives. I started reading a book called 10X is Better Than 2X by
Mm.
Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And basically the thesis is that to get to that next level, you've got to drop about 80% of what you're currently doing now
Yeah.
and replace it with the new. And you think
Yeah.
about like your wardrobe in the closet, right? You've had
Oh,
all
yeah.
these clothes you've had forever, but to level up, right? It's a whole new you, taking that
Hmm.
stuff out. And it sounds easier than it is, but it's really hard to kind of let go a lot of that stuff, because
Yeah.
people's identity are wrapped up in that 80% that needs to move on.
Yes, and we are creatures that like comfort, and change
Yeah.
sometimes is scary. And as an entrepreneur, you are constantly changing to meet the needs and the demand of your business, and you kind of
Yeah.
have to.
And I think about that even relating to like the veteran community as well. We come out with this military identity. It's been our life, but to transition in the civilian world, right? We got to, what we did was great in the military, but we got to open ourselves up to all these new
Yeah,
opportunities and things that are out there. So,
absolutely, absolutely. That's a good book too. Send that to me.
my book recommendation for the day is actually Getting Real. And the reason this book is top of my mind um, is by Jason Fried, and I forgot David Hannemeyer Hansen. They run a company called 37 Signals. And these are like the OG bootstrappers. So they have this whole philosophy of what it takes to build a business. They bootstrap their business. I think it's called Basecamp. That's right, which is like one of the OG project management softwares. And it's just a really good book about how to bootstrap a business. So I
Nice.
want y'all to encourage y'all to check that out. And I'm going to be going through it as I continue to work with some of my branding clients over here on the Ironbound Media side of the house, because, positioning is a big deal,
Hmm.
creating
Hmm.
categories, going to market, just the basics. And
Yeah.
I find that when I read easy books like this, it's only like 115 or 20 pages, it keeps you focused on the main things,
Hmm.
right? Instead of getting making your business model way too complicated early on, and just
Yeah.
focusing on getting customers, how to attract them, etc. So check that book out.
I
We
am notorious for rereading books,
Yeah, me too.
especially at different phases of life. You
Absolutely.
you definitely sometimes need to reread some of those things that you didn't get the first time. So
I, I'm
it works.
constantly going back and rereading those books. The Alchemist is another book.
Oh
Depending
yeah,
on what phase of life I'm at,
yeah,
anytime I'm going through a big transition, boom, I got to go back and check out The Alchemist.
yeah. That's a great one. See, we could be here talking books all day long.
Yeah. So we got another question from my man Henry. I'm gonna let you answer it first, and I'm gonna have my thoughts. He says, "What would you tell entrepreneurs who have too many ideas?"
Ooh, sometimes too many ideas isn't a bad thing if they are all in the same lane. If your ideas are over here and over here and over here, you definitely need to focus. There are a couple of organizations, especially for startups, very smaller, that are in different parts of the country that do feasibility workshops. And they have you talk through your idea, each one, if you have 10 or 12 of them, and think, how feasibly can you execute this idea? Is it a viable business, or is this just something good to have in the back of your mind? So, narrowing it down the best way possible would be great for your business to sustain. Because if you don't want to, they call it in nonprofit world mission creep. You don't want to creep towards whatever the shiny object is, if it's not aligned with what your mission and values of your company is.
Awesome. For me, Henry, my recommendation is, and this is gonna be dependent upon where you're at in your entrepreneurial journey, right? So if you're like sitting on the side of the pool waiting to get in, the biggest thing you can do is learn how to be an entrepreneur, right? So taking some product or service to market, validating the business model with with paying customers, and then getting some recurring revenue going. And one of the things I found out early on was I had all these ideas and I was throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall. But the better I got at becoming an entrepreneur, like I hired a business coach, right? I really started to lean into the literature or whatever. Stuff just started sticking, right? So now I know basically any idea I throw at the wall, I can get it off the ground and I can get some recurring revenue. But what I am cognizant of is, and I'm going through this now, is focus, right? Because when you're working on so many different ideas at once, that means you're not giving one of them the attention that it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
And mentally, it can destroy you because you can be winning over here on these two or three ideas, but you're losing over here.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so my challenge to you is focus, right? Look at the idea that you are best aligned to solve yourself personally. because there's a lot of speculative ideas out there. Like, oh, I think we could spin a business this. I can spin a business there. But ask yourself, hey, what do I have deep subject matter expertise in? What do I already have the social networks to leverage the idea? How much time can I spend working on it? And then what makes the best idea based off of what I just talked about? And then focus on that. And that's my recommendation. So, and at the end of the day, some of y'all overthink it. You got too many ideas. Pick one, take it to market, get beat up and punched in the face, right?
Come back and do it again.
Yeah, then do it again. Rinse and repeat. You just got to go through it. So get off the side of the pool, jump in the water. It's fine. You're going to you might have to tread water a little bit, but that's what I want to encourage you to do. I want you to get in the game, right? Whatever idea is going to allow you to get in the game. The other thing I want to say too is, and I'm sure she's going to agree with this also, is just like we talked about before, certain business models are notoriously hard. So before you jump in the pool, thinking about opening up a gym and charging members $30 a month, or opening a restaurant or something, understand those business models are really, really hard to do. And you're going to fight tooth and nail just to get some margin and break even. So you really have to love it and know your why behind it. Same thing with the nonprofit. It's all fun and games, getting something off the ground, but the day-to-day blocking and tackling, 1 year turns into 2, 2 turns into 5, and you still got to show up. So getting back to your why, think about that as well.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there.
So as we close out here, how can people find out more information about Founders First CDC and any closing remarks you have for our viewers today?
Yeah, you can go to foundersfirstcdc.org. I definitely suggest you sign up for our newsletter so that way you'll get notified of all of our grant opportunities that are opening up, all of our cohort opportunities that'll open up as well, and plenty of ways where you can find your contact person in the region that you're in. I'm in Texas, but we have team members across 6 states. So that's in California, Texas, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Minnesota. So there's someone that is able to talk with you one-on-one, or you can connect with them at one of our events. And I welcome you to just stay in touch with us.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, and thank you so much for being an ecosystem partner. That's the only way we're able to grow this veteran entrepreneur and military spouse ecosystem. And so coming on to introduce yourself to our community is amazing, and we'll be sure to push people your way. Before we wrap up, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors for the Transition Podcast. If you haven't tuned in, do not miss it. The MetLife Foundation for making it possible. I want to hear from you. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn at Iron Mike Steadman and let me know what topics you're struggling with so I can go over them on the show. So feel free to reach out to me directly. I look forward to hearing from you all. Even you can go ahead and drop thoughts on show content in the comments here today as well. Until next time, everyone, peace, love,